We are live at the Townie Meeting 2016, or for our 14th annual Townie Meeting, and this year on Valentine's Day, we released our first podcast with you, and we're bringing him back. This guy is the relationship expert, Dino Watt, who wrote a book, The Practice Prescription. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, or RX, either one.
And I'm just gonna let you. I'm gonna let you rant because if I asked 100 dentists in a row. Mm-hmm. You know, what keeps you up at night? What stresses you out? It's never, I don't know how to do a crown. I can't figure out a root canal. It's never that. It's always like, my staff drives me insane. I can't believe how patients are. I mean, you tell them this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I go home and I have to deal with my spouse and children. I mean, it's just always people.
Yep.
It seems like the people are the greatest things in life, and they're the most stressful part of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
What advice could you give my homies on dealing with their staff, their patients, their spouse, their kids?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on again. And
are you going to say what you said last time, just lots of Xanax and vodka?
No,
Isn't that what your first message was?
I don't believe in that, because that usually ends up to even worse relationships, right? That's what I saw last night at the superhero thing, was a lot of that going on. No, that was fun. No, this has been great, being able to meet a lot of fun people and having just a good time with everybody. So here's the thing. I believe that everything you've ever received in life comes from a relationship, and everything you will ever receive in life will come from a relationship. So you have to focus on the relationships. I think if doctors are asking themselves, why did I just spend 20, 30, 50, 100 grand on this consultant and I got minimal results? It's not because the consultant has their magic that they do. It's because you're asking the consultant to perform their magic in terrible relationship circumstances. So basically a contaminated environment. I'm not a dentist, so give me an example of something that you would do in a dental procedure that you wouldn't do the last thing first. You'd have to do the first, second, third, fourth thing, or it's not going to turn out right. So I'm saying put on a crown, right? There's a certain procedure to put a crown on. What would you not do before you put the actual crown on? Is there anything in particular?
What would I not do?
Yeah.
Before I would not try it on and adjust it and get it all ready.
Okay. Is there, would you take a procedure and say, okay, I'm going to just throw that on and hope it works well, because it's the crown. The crown fits. But maybe you didn't drill it out correctly. Maybe you didn't use a proper glue. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure. When you hire a consultant, when you try to put your own personal life inside of your business and you don't have the relationship strong enough inside the business, you're going to be set up for failure no matter what. It's not going to turn out right because you're working in a contaminated environment. And so you're going to get a contaminated result. So I feel like when you deal with your relationships first, when you strengthen those relationships, which nobody wants to do. Like your opening conversation yesterday about everybody wants to go buy the blinking light, right? They'll spend 100 grand on a blinking light, but will they spend money on actually figuring out how to communicate better with their team? Will they do personality reports with every single one of the people they're thinking about hiring before they just fill in a hole that they needed to be filled staff-wise? Which, by the way, I think too many people think about it as a staff, which is an infection nobody wants, right?
I love that. Staff.
Like you want a team, but people do go, hey, let me just fill a spot in here, as opposed to who's the best, highest producing, greatest person possible that I can fill in this spot. Yes, even if she's just somebody answering the phones, because like you said yesterday, most important job, right? Most important job in the entire team is the person who answers that phone. And yet I hear from dentists all the time, it's like, yeah, you know, she's really not personable. I just got an email from a client just the other day, just came on board, and I had him do an assessment of every single one of his team members. And he said, my appointment manager, yeah, like no one really likes talking to her. She's really cranky all the time. And I went, this is the person you're paying $20 an hour to do this?
To be the first point of entry to your office
like
on the phone.
this is your business, and yet you're okay with that? Why would you accept that? So I feel like if you want to decrease the stress and the frustration, if you want to have a better relationship with your wife, if you want to have a better relationship with the team members, focus on the relationships. Learn how to be a better communicator. Learn how to find out what their support systems are, what their love languages are. And then your life will be so much easier because you won't be stressed out anymore.
Did you like that book, Love Languages?
What I liked about it was this, is that it gave a lot of really good stories so people could understand what their love language are. But my personal feeling is this. I teach this. I have a marriage portion of my business, and I teach this. I believe it's not a love language. It's more an emotional currency, because my love language, according to Dr. Chapman, it changes depending on the season of my life. So to say this is how I accept things and this is how I feel love all the time isn't fair. So I call them emotional currencies. Just like money, they change depending on what's going on in the economy. So, for example, my wife, when we were first married, her love language was all about acts of charity, acts of service, doing stuff for her, nailing stuff up on the wall, putting up wallpaper, whatever it was, right? Then we had 3 kids in 3 years. And all of a sudden, her love language became time. Let me be alone. Let me go do my own thing. But I'm giving her service because, hey, this is what the book says that I should give you, and she's not receiving it. So I think it changes depending on your season in life. So, did you like the book?
Yeah, I thought it was a great book. I think books are great, just the fact that it gets you focusing on one problem.
Yeah.
Whether that book had the answer, the solution, or at least you're spending time focusing on that problem. Another big legendary book was Men Are From Mars,
Sure.
Women Are From Venus. Some people say that the author that wrote that was actually divorced 5 times.
Well, what's funny is he and Dr. Barbara DeAngelis is another relationship expert. They were married, and they're divorced. And they both went and created these. Yeah.
Oh, so the Men Are From Mars guy was married to the what
Barbara
book?
DeAngelis. I don't remember. I think her name, something about love is her thing. But Barbara DeAngelis, she's also was kind of in the 90s, just like Men Are From Mars. It kind of became this marriage and relationship guru. Yeah.
But wasn't he divorced like multiple times?
That's what I hear too. Yeah, I've heard. I know he's at least once. But you said on the last podcast 2 or 3.
No, I was married to Ryan's mom for 20 years, and then I had I got married in Vegas one night. That was so legally twice.
Well, I'm just saying.
But my first one was 20 years.
You can write a relationship book, and you can become a relationship guru because.
So I've been legally divorced twice, but I figure a 20-year marriage. But we met at 14. We got married at 23.
Wow.
And then 23, so then I made it to 43. So basically, I was with her from 14 to 43. And we're still great friends.
That's amazing.
Lots of great respect.
So you keep in that relationship, even though you might not be married, you still have that relationship strength, and that's important. That's powerful.
Yeah, I got to be nice to her because our moms live a block apart. So you still got to be nice. But no, great woman. But so tell us about your book. What was your book about? The Practice Prescription.
So
Dino Watt, the relationship, the cure to inner office drama, politics, low morale, and the overworked, burnt out, underappreciated owner and other office ailments.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I just don't understand why a profession here's the thing. Yesterday I was leaving the superhero party. I was walking down the casino, and a bunch of people from the party were there too, and everybody's dressed up in costume, right? So people are looking at them strange or whatever. And I just had a t-shirt on, like a superhero t-shirt on. And a guy stops me and he says, "Kate, tell me what's going on. Is it Halloween? Why are these people all dressed up?" And I said, "Oh, it's a dental convention." You want to know what his response right away was? Like, not even thinking what he said to me.
What?
He goes, "Oh, you're all rich." That's the thought, is you're all rich. Well, the problem is that if the public perception is that you're all rich, they don't know what the underlying pain, what's going on in the dental profession. They don't know the challenges that are happening, that dentists are dying from stress-related cardiovascular disease more than anybody else on the planet. They don't know this stuff. Why aren't we doing something about it? Why aren't we changing the perception of who cares about the money? These guys are healthcare givers. These people are here to make sure that I actually have good health in my teeth and the rest of my body because of what they do. They don't think about that. They think a doctor does that, because you're not a real doctor, You're just a guy who puts your teeth in my mouth and causes me pain. So I said...
But hey, Dr. Pepper wasn't a real doctor either.
That's
and
right.
neither was Dr. Dre.
And he's very, very rich.
So,
Well, Dr. Dre, he spins them, so, it might actually be. Really. I just felt like I felt something was very needed in the industry. I fell into the industry. Like I said, I'm not a doctor or a dentist. I fell into the industry because I started helping people in their relationships and their marriage space, and I had created a formula and a system to take business principles and put them into relationships, because I feel like if you look at McDonald's, like you used the example of yesterday, they created systems to get a specific outcome. You're not getting a 12-ounce steak when you go to McDonald's. You're getting a very specific hamburger, and the hamburger is going to taste the exact same in Florida as it is going to be in California or China. Well, I said, why can't we take systems that businesses use as successful businesses and put them into marriage? Well, a friend of mine who is a financial wealth guru He became a client and all of a sudden came to me and said, Dino, I'm dealing with people and money on a consistent basis. The majority of my clients are dentists and chiropractors.
Is it Garrick Anderson?
Yeah. You know
Oh
Garrett?
my God, hell yeah.
He's one of my great friends. He was one of my very first clients.
Wow.
That's really crazy.
That's funny. You said wealth, dentist, then you said chiropractor. Okay, now it's
That's
down to
so
one guy.
funny. That's awesome.
Now we're down. It's like
Garrett
Wheel of
just
Fortune.
texted me yesterday. That's funny.
Tell
So-
Garrett I said hi.
I will, absolutely. He came to me and he was like, Dino, I'm dealing with people money. Money is the number one cause of divorce. I can't help them with their marriage because they're fighting, their money because they're fighting all the time about their marriage. Will you help them? And so I started dealing and having only these clients come to me. And I had more and more dentists, orthodontists, chiropractors, all professional practice owners, and I'm seeing the same problems over and over again. And so finally, I was exclusive to only private practice owners. So I saw these challenges, and one of the orthodontists I had out of Texas, he came to me and he said, Dino, I'm doing great in my marriage. These systems are working awesome, but I'm married to 5 other people in my office. I have 5 work wives, and they all communicate differently. Can you help me with that? So I went into his office and I got to see what was going on. I'm a certified body language expert. And so I was able to look at that and go, okay, something else is going on in the office, and started putting in systems in the office to make sure the communication was better, the relationships were better, and some basic business 101 principles that a lot of people didn't have in place, which I had learned from years in being in business. And I created this core system. And I said, there are basically 4 areas of any business that you can put together and you can strengthen, and it will transform your business. And that's what the Practice RX is. It just outlines those 4 core areas.
True or false? Physicians, dentists, lawyers tend to attract and marry women who are looking for rich spouses. And gold diggers are called.
Well, I don't know. It depends on the time of life that you are. Like, were you rich when you were in college?
No, but a lot of young people might think that, well, if he's going to graduate and be a lawyer or a physician or a dentist, he's going to be rich.
Maybe.
Do you think that's silly, or do you think it's real?
I don't know if it's silly or not, but I do think that there is something to be said about, and let's talk men versus women, okay? If it's a woman seeing a man who's going to dental school or a law school or whatever, I'm sure part of it is that she thinks, oh, I'm going to be taken care of. I'm going to have some sort of security. So there's 2 things that all women want in life. There's only 2 things all women want, really, when you break it all down, and 2 things all men want in life. The 2 things women want in life is, number 1, to feel secure, to feel safe, to feel protected. And that could be financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And the second thing they want is to be validated. So if I'm a woman and I see that there's this guy who has ambition, who is a hard worker, because like you mentioned yesterday, you avoided even going to parties and having a good time. You spent your time in the library. And if a woman who sees, I want somebody to protect me, and I'm not saying that women have to be protected, but this is, I think, a DNA type situation where it is down in their genes that they want to be secure. This guy's going to be secure. And 2, validated, great. I'll take that. And so there are the women who I think will just go for the gold digging part of it. But it's a big gamble because you're a student still at the time when they met you. But I think if you go to the cut to 20 years later, divorced, and you are now successful, I think you attract what you attract. And I think you can't blame it all on the woman either, because if you're accepting that, if you see that, and if you're not marrying them because, or getting involved with them because you see the root of them being an amazing, powerful person on their own, then there's a problem that you have to look into yourself.
You still got to tell us what the 2 things the men want, but back to the gold digging part. It just seems like I've had so many dinners with so many husband and wife dentists for so many decades, and he's sitting there, stress out of his mind. He's talking about his overhead. He's talking about insurance. He's talking about all these problems. And his wife's, sitting next to him having a steak and a martini. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she says to me, "Oh my God, have you seen the new Range Rovers? Oh my God, I want one of those Range Rovers." I'm just sitting there like, how disconnected are you to all of a sudden bring up that you want some new $80,000. It just seems like I see more insane personal spending by dentist wives than all my other friends where the guy owns a plumbing shop, a construction shop. I mean, I have millionaire friends that from landscaping. I have 2 different millionaire friends in Phoenix who just own 5 landscaping teams, and each landscaping team probably does, I don't know, 6-8 houses a day or whatever. And their wives, I mean, they're frugal.
Right.
But it seems like if you lined up 100 wives of physicians, dentists, and lawyers, their spending is insane.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, though. Have you ever asked those doctors how their money management truly is inside the office? Like, do they know their numbers? Are they letting their financial manager just spend wherever they want to spend? I got analysis back from my financial analysis guy for one of my clients just 2 days ago. And one of the things that he pointed out was her numbers are all over the place and she doesn't know her numbers. So if that's how they're acting inside their office, why would that be any difference out in their marriage? If they are not being good financial management and making sure that they know the numbers in the breakout just recently, the speaker, Lacey, she asked one of the people, like, do you know your numbers on this crown and that crown and how much money you're making off of it every year and stuff? Asked a doctor. And the doctor was like, no. Well, gosh, if you're going to act that way in your business, where the money is coming from, of course you're going to be also the same kind of lackadaisical with your spouse. And your spouse is going to be able to say, well, they don't care and I can spend it. And they don't know the money. And I mean, you would know this. How many spouses do you know that truly don't know the numbers? They just get the credit card and able to swipe the Amex and it's paid every month, so they don't have to take care of it. So out of sight, out of mind. Until you tell me to stop, it's like a patient in your chair. Until you say, I'm in pain, it's not working, the numbing, you're going to keep going because you can't feel it. You don't know what's going on until they tell you how painful it is.
So what are the 2 things the men want? You said women want validated, and
the first thing one is security.
Security.
The second one is to be validated, that whatever they're doing, their choice in life, how they're showing up is okay. So if they choose to be a stay-at-home mom or if they choose to be a Fortune 500 company CEO, that is okay. So they just want the validation. The 2 things that all men want in life, number 1 is to feel like they are the superhero, that they are accomplishing something for you. They want to be the Superman to the Lois Lane. Okay, because when we don't feel like that, this is a really interesting thing that's happening in our society right now, is you'll see a lot of stay-at-home dads, and I have yet to meet long-term, there'll be some people out there might jump on this, be like, I know people who are long-term men who are totally happy and satisfied, not only with the choice they made of being a stay-at-home dad, but that their marriage doesn't suffer. Because what happens is they step into the beta role. And when you have a beta energy, women don't DNA-wise attract to beta energy. They attract to alpha energy. And so these men will become more and more beta. Women aren't attracted to beta. Women are attracted to alpha. And so therefore, they stop losing the connection between the 2 of them. And marriages tend to suffer in the long term when the roles are reversed.
Well, I know a lot of stay-at-home dads whose wives are rich dentists. And they say, I feel emasculated.
Totally.
That my wife makes more money than me. And I always say, just try not to think about that while you're vacuuming.
You are so gentle about the way that you help them feel better.
Was that the right advice for him?
It's a choice they made, right?
I want to feel emasculated. I want to marry some chick. My goal is to get married to some woman and divorce her and make $10 million.
Off of her.
That's my goal.
That's your goal.
That's my goal.
Well, it's good to have a goal. It's really, really good, important. Well, the thing about that, though, is when you talk about the emasculation, look in the office, though. Even though you have a doctor who is a doctor, just because their name is on the sign, how many doctors do you know that feel completely emasculated in their own office because they have strong personality girls? They have a team that has really kind of become the alpha to him, and he's just there to do what he does. Have you ever run into that?
Mm-hmm.
So my big challenge is when you have a lot of large personalities of women, and they will fill the void. If there is a man in the office and he is not, and by the way, I also think this happens for female doctors. if they are not stepping into that alpha role as a doctor, and not by berating people and being belligerent, but see, alpha, the only thing it takes to really become a true alpha, that is a benevolent alpha and not a dictator, is just making decisions and sticking with those decisions. The most unattractive thing to a woman is a man who always says, I don't know. So I always do a test, and I say to typically women, whether they be in the office or the spouse, and I say, so how often when you ask the doctor or your husband a question, whether it be about dinner or about what they should do with the patient, do you hear them say, I don't know? And whenever they say, oh, all the time, I know they're emasculated. I know they've stepped into beta. And it's so unattractive to women. And so in the office, when you have a office full of women who see this void of alpha, they'll step into it. And that's why I said yesterday in my talk that sometimes you have a culture in your office that is by default, typically by the strongest personality in the office, not by the doctor, because the doctor didn't design it that way. So the second thing that men want is physical connection. Men typically thrive off of more physical connection than women do, yet it's the thing in our society that lacks the most. Like when you and I met each other, did we come up and hug each other? No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
You're thinking, did we hug each other? I don't remember that or not. He's thinking, he's trying to remember. When you meet a doctor out here, do you go up and hug them?
Sometimes.
Sometimes if you know them, you've known them for a long time, right? But typically us men, we don't really get physical. Yet you watch these ladies and you see them just even, some woman went to the bathroom and came back out and they're happy about something, they're going to give them a hug. They're going to come up and big a hand.
Well, I've noticed from lecturing a gazillion times for 30 years that during a lecture, if a man has to go pee, he just gets up and he goes pees. Women always have to leave in pairs. I've never seen a woman pee by herself in 53 years.
Because there's a conversation that could be had in the middle of that peeing that they want to make sure that they don't miss.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I can imagine the guy next to me said, I got to go to the bathroom. Will you go with me? I'd probably say, no, dude, you're on your own on this one.
Sorry, I don't play that game. Yeah, so there's that physicality. That's the other thing that men need to have is more the physicality. That's why sex is such a big deal. That's why we're here in Las Vegas. Sex sells like crazy, right? It's all there. You walk outside on this boulevard. We were just talking at the table over there that you can't. I find it fascinating when people bring little kids to Vegas because you can't tell them to look down because it's all on the ground. You can't tell them to look up because it's all on the ground.
I know. I can't believe they can't get rid of that. I mean, why can't Vegas just sign an ordinance that you can't hand out porno cards?
Because that's their money. I mean, money talks, right? That's their money, and that's why it's such a big deal. They know. I watch, and I don't know why, maybe I just don't put off the vibe, but as I walk over here, because I'm staying at the hotel across the street, every morning as I've walked over here, I have seen husbands and wives. You could tell they're a couple walking together, and yet the guys will go and pass out the card to the guy, slap it and hand it to the guy, or say, hey, you want to go to a strip club and try to get them. Like, do you not see the wife right here? Like, I'm not your audience, dude, but that's what sells. And so the physicality that men need is very strong. We just have to find proper ways to do it. And I think sex is a very proper way of doing it. But I also think that there is a conversation that needs to be said about filling that void in a lot of men's life. Look, you guys as doctors, you actually get a lot more of that physicality that you might not realize. And yet that's one of the challenges when we do our body language training. That's one of the challenges that you don't understand is you don't know what's going on in that person's head when you cozy up to them. And you literally put your crotch by their head. And you don't know what's going on. So understanding that physicality and how you can do that properly for yourself and for them. I think you said, yeah, you did. On the last podcast, you talked about the doctor who's stressed out. Or no, how you could feel when people are stressed out. And that transfers to you.
Oh, yeah.
When you feel that patient stressed out on what's going on.
Yeah.
You've got to be totally clear with yourself and knowing how you can really help them feel better and more relaxed. And that's all about touch and physicality. And how do you touch them appropriately? How does the touch happen at the very beginning when they walk in the door? This is fascinating to me. I loved your thing yesterday about going to the window and opening up the window and then having them shut it. My wife was with me yesterday and I was busting up laughing because one of the things that drives me crazy is the way that people connect or don't connect with the patient as they're in the office. Not only does that glass thing just so true, or even just if they don't have the glass, they're sitting at the desk and they barely have time to look up and be like, oh, okay, sign in with the pin that's chained to the because we don't trust you. I love that whole thing. But here's the thing. If your job as the doctor is to help them feel relaxed and comfortable, then why wouldn't the system be in place to make sure that as soon as they are in the office, number one, they're greeted a certain way to make them feel special and unique and different. Like, I know it's hard, and I'll probably get hate mail for this from people, but what would happen if when a patient walked into the office, the receptionist actually stood up and greeted them and said, hello, Mr. Watt, how are you doing today? And called them by name. Because when I came into this hotel today, and when I checked into my hotel the other day, guess what wasn't happening? I did not walk up to anybody sitting down. I walked up to somebody who was there waiting for me, ready to go. It made me feel special and important. Then the second thing that happens is this really cool thing that has scared me since I was a kid. So I don't know what it's called, you'll know exactly what it's called, but I had that extra tooth in my mouth where they had to do the operation and go find it and dig it out because it was jacking up all my teeth. So I visited the orthodontist a lot, and I'm the dentist a lot as a kid, and then later on orthodontist. And one of the things that drove me crazy was every time they would come to get me, they would open up a door, they'd have a file folder in their hands, and they'd say, Dino, like I was going back to the executioner. Like this was like some terrible, awful thing. And I knew I was going to be in pain in about 5 minutes. And yet they didn't treat me. They didn't come up to me. And how much would it made a difference if they would have actually come out the door, crossed that invisible barrier between back office and lobby, and came to me and got me and shook my hand and said, hey, Dino, we're so good to see you here today. We're so excited to help you get that crown done. Or we're so excited to do whatever. And told me what they were excited to do. And took me by the hand and now made a physical connection with me and escorted me back to the office. Now your job, cozying up to them, is 1,000 times easier because they've already made a physical and mental connection with you by way of your team. But instead, it's the glass door, it's the calling them back to the execution chamber, and this is one thing I love, when they then call you and then they turn and walk in front of you as if you're supposed to follow them, right? And they usually walk fast. Why do they walk fast? Because they want to act like they're important and they want to act like they're busy instead of actually taking their time, walking back with them, letting them know, I know this is routine for you every day. I know that you've seen 20 of me every single day. But this is my first time here today. This is my first treatment of pain, or even if you're doing something good for me, I don't know what's happening next fully. All I know is that my mom made me come here. I don't like coming to the dentist because I'm going to be in pain. Why don't you make it the most joyous experience I possibly can have in that moment? Don't just ask me how school's going. Ask me something personal about myself. If I'm a woman, talk to me about my haircut or what I'm wearing. If I'm a kid, know more about me. I think you talk about the most important person in the office is the person on the phones. I think it's because the only question I need to know as someone who works in an office is what am I there for and what is my pain? Because then everyone else in the office can talk to that. So let's just say I'm an orthodontist or I'm going to an orthodontist and I want my little Johnny to have a great smile. I want him to be an actor someday. But he's getting bullied on the street corner every single day. Why don't we all know this? Why doesn't every single person in the office know that that's Johnny's pain or Johnny's mom's pain so that we can speak to it? Sales are easier when that happens. Them actually being compliant with your treatment, easier when that happens because you know what their pain is as opposed to just saying, hey, I'm the doctor. I know what's best for you. Sit down, shut up, and let me do my magic. That's just my little rant. Sorry.
No, I love your rants. And I think one of the biggest disconnect is all the dentists believe that, all the successful dentists are the ones that learn how to place implants or learn how to do ortho or learn how to do all these advanced cosmetic procedures or about all these technologies and CAD cams and CBCTs and lasers. But the reality is all the doctors that are the most successful and produce the most and collect the most and take home the most don't have any of that shit.
Yep.
They just mastered the people side of the equation. They basically only do fillings and crowns and cleanings, but they got a harmonious staff. They communicate well with the patients. They have the patient's trust. It's just they if you get an A in people, you can literally screw up everything else.
Absolutely.
And make bank.
Well,
but if you fail in people
true.
and get everything else right, you'll still lose.
You're absolutely 100% correct. That's why, look, I just kind of put my flag down a couple of years ago where I said, I'm a patient, right? I'm the guy walking into your office, and most people aren't willing to say, hey, this is why I don't trust you. This is why I don't show up for my 6-month cleaning. This is why I don't pay my bills. Most people won't tell you why. But I walked into the office and I was like, well, I'm going to tell you why. Let me tell you how when I see, I walked into, it was a medical office, so we'll give him a break. But it was a medical office I walked into probably about 3 months ago. And I'm not kidding you. There was dust on his desk where he had moved the lamp from here to here, and you could see the square of the dust outline. And I was going, oh, and you're going to put your hands in my body somewhere? You're going to examine me? Like, that's a part of it, right? That's the relationship that you have with the things around you. That's going to reflect on the relationship you have with me. You have to know.
I can't even believe it with half the dental companies. Like, half the dental companies in dentistry, you go to their website and you can't even find a human name.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
you go to a dentist website and they'll say, meet the doctor. And it'll say the doctor. And then you go to this new company and they send you an email and check out this. And you go about and it talks about that deal. Contact. And it's like, there's not a human. I can't drop the name in LinkedIn to see who it is, or if they're a townie. I don't know what city you're in.
Yeah.
Shit, I know nothing about the company, and it's like, and they think I'm just gonna buy some product because of their little website saying it's a great product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how do you have a company website without one human name or human photo or human anything on the site?
Totally agree. Well, and I'll even go one step further. When you do have that picture on it, I mean, the obligatory picture that is usually on a dental website is the guy with his team around him and in a field somewhere, that was taking some beautiful photograph of them. And then the list of about our dentist or get to know us is what? It's a resume. It's literally went to school at this place, graduated from here, board certified here. Oh, and the very last thing they'll say is, loves spending time with his family and skiing, or loves spending time skiing.
Yeah.
Something stupid like that, right? But if we know, when it comes to marketing, the only way people buy is if they know, like, and trust you, well, why don't you let them actually know a little bit about you so that they can like you and trust? Look, we all trust because you have a dental website. I know there's a few wackos out there, but we all trust that you actually have a degree in dentistry. Because you have the website that says so. You don't have to tell me where you graduated from. I know it's nice because you're proud. But what I'd rather see is more about you so that I can get to know who you are as a person, because I buy from people that I like. I buy, like you said yesterday, I buy the unseen. I buy that. So do that for me. Like, make me want to buy from you as a person so I have a personal connection to you. All of that is connected. That's why when it comes to relationships, people think that I'm just talking about you and your wife, or even maybe you and your office manager. I'm not. I'm talking about the relationship with everything that you do in your office. If your office is sucking and draining your energy every day, it's not just the people that are around you. It's because you're working in an office that is a sterile office. What do sterile offices give? Nothing. They're supposed to be blank and empty. And so they're sucking your life of you. If your office doesn't reflect who you are as a person, then when I walk in as a patient, I still don't know who you are. You look like every other Joe dentist in town because you have the same beige colors on the wall with the very bad art on the walls, and you treat me the same way everybody else does. That's a relationship.
So, where do they buy this book?
So Amazon, it's an international bestseller on Amazon. You can get it right now. There's a Kindle version as well. I'm working on right now the audio version for it right now because I'm an audio version book.
Same here, and that's the next feature that we're putting on the Dental Town app.
Oh, is it really?
Audio book. So when you get the audio book, you can.
I'm total auditory visual learner, and so that I only have a book. So I know.
So you're consulting in dentistry. Is that what you're doing mostly? Dentistry or physicians or chiropractic?
Pretty much any private practice, but the majority of my clients are dentists and orthodontists. A little bit of chiropractic. I have like 2 chiropractic clients, but I actually am trying to change the word consultant. I'm not a consultant. I have a really soft spot in my heart for consultants because I feel like they're walking into a really bad environment and they're expected to create miracles for these doctors. What I do is I'm a mentor. I want to go in and I want to walk you through the steps. I don't just come and tell you what to do. I'm gonna critique you on how you did it.
So you go into the office?
I do. Yeah, I go into the office.
And how does that work? You usually go in for a day, a week?
I go in
how
the day
does it
before.
work?
I go 2 days. The first day I'll go in and I'll observe and I'll just watch what's going on and I'll see everybody. And I actually ask the doctors not to tell anybody what I'm doing other than, oh, he's a consultant, because that's all they know, right? They don't understand what I'm doing. So I'll go in for a day and I'll observe, and then I'll just take notes and I just watch what's going on. And then the next day I typically do a full team training. Now,
for the whole day?
Usually it's about 5 hours, of a full training. And what will happen is it'll typically be on communication and body language, because it's a unique enough topic that people are like, oh, he's not going to tell me about billing and collections. But what I'm doing is I'm showing them how through the language that they're not focusing on, they actually can get tremendous results inside the office and in their own personal life. Because when we can connect what's happening inside the office to their personal life, then people all of a sudden pay more attention because it means something for them. So I'll go and I'll do that. And then that's usually the first meeting that most people have with me. I do a webinar where people meet with me there too. But then
how often do you do a webinar?
I do my webinar just about twice a month.
I mean, is that a public thing or is
webinar. If you just go to dinowatt.com.
How do they find out about your webinars?
Go to dinowatt.com or just friend me on Facebook. I have the Practice RX Facebook page. You can go up there and see that. I also have for all practitioners, I created a study club on Facebook. It's a private group. And we have chiropractors, orthodontists, dentists, a pediodontist. I have a wealth management company that we put in there because I want people to share. I truly believe that the industry won't change from within the industry. Because you know that there's that saying that you're in the forest looking through the trees. You guys are the trees, right? You're trees looking through trees. So the only thing we really can do to make true dramatic change and stop the addiction, the suicide, the divorces, all that stuff, is to actually change who we're looking at for our answers. So look outside the industry. So be an Apple when it comes to the music industry, right? They totally transformed that industry because they were able to see differently. So I want to use everybody's experience. And then on that webinar, we go through some of the pains and the challenges that you're having and why my formula solves it. It's not a good suggestion. It's not something that will be, a good idea next year. No. It solves the pain if you just focus on it.
And how much does it cost to get you to come in the office for 2 days?
So the first 2-day training is $5,000, and that's a 2-day training. And then we can go on from there and I do a whole year program. And it just depends. We do a group program, and then we do a one-on-one training. So it depends on what your needs are and the size of the office too. Because I have an office right now with 6 people in it, and I have another office that has 25 people in it. So that's a difference. Because I actually work with your team. It's not you having to train them, right? I want to go in and say, well, I get it, but you probably don't have the greatest management skills, so let me train you those skills and let me train them those skills too. So it's not you having just to try to figure it out on your own. So
you like doing it?
I love it. What's fascinating is I never in a million years, if you would have asked me when I was getting all those operations done in my mouth and braces for 4.5 years, I was a terrible, terrible patient. No way would I think I'd be in this industry at all. And I know I'm kind of the new guy on the block, right? I know there's all these great people out there. I got to meet Sandy yesterday. She's amazing and stuff. And yet, I just want to kind of be a heretic in the industry. I want to shift it up. I want to completely change the way people think, because I really am passionate about the fact that, as you even said last time, the divorce and the suicide is insane.
I know. I've been in Phoenix 28 years, and every single year, 1 to 3 dentists, and I say Phoenix, I mean the Valley, Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, the whole 1 to 3 dentists per year kill themselves.
So Dr. Friend,
for the whole 20 since 1987.
If that was happening in any other situation, if we had a disease that was killing percentage-wise that many people, if it's 5 times more likely for you to kill yourself than me in any other industry or any other type of thing, if it was kids, if it was little kids in school, we would be jumping all over it as a society. We would say, what the hell is going on? And how do we stop this? And the only solutions I have seen, the only solution I believe works, is by strengthening the relationships, because then you have less stress. Stress is that killer. If we can solve that problem, then we completely transform the industry. But instead, we're too busy buying the lasers and putting our head down and just thinking, well, I've only got 10 more years till I can retire, and it's going to be somebody else's problem, right? I get to sell my practice and sell this problem that I'm currently dealing with that is currently killing me. But if I can just hold on for 10 more years, I can sell it to some other schmuck who's going to take this problem on, and now it's his problem. It's not mine anymore. And I get to retire and live a good life. And
that's where I think the so-called midlife crisis comes in, or something else, because they, they they hold in, and all of a sudden the hygienist just says something, and they just vomit all over, explode and destroy. Or they're holding on. I mean, I've seen this so many times where, they go to church every Sunday and they got 3 amazing kids and everything's just fine. And then boom, out of nowhere, he shacks up with some chick and just gets a Harley Davidson and then stops going to church, just completely flips out to the opposite extreme because they didn't understand how to properly deflate this
environment. I call it the ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
It's the ticking time bomb owner. There's a ticking time bomb owner and a conscious creating owner. A guy who says, this is what I want, and says, like, literally, this is the vision I want for my life and my practice, and let me reverse engineer it from where I am now. I might not be there right now. It might take me 20 years to get there, but let me reverse engineer it. And then there's a ticking time bomb owner. He's the guy who is just reactionary. He's the guy who walks in the office and just has it all built in, and finally, that one day snaps.
I just had one a few weeks ago. She's just works 100 hours a week, all stressed out, blah, blah, blah. Decided she needed to get in shape to have a personal trainer. First session of the personal trainer, he comes to her house, they work out, and she goes home with him that night. Nice. So after the first workout, the whole family unit's exploded.
Wow.
I did really like that TED Talk. One of the most viewed TED Talks lately is the one Rat Park. Did you see that one?
No.
Rat Park was neat. I think it applies to dentistry a lot, where he was saying that basically it was the Portugal study. He was showing how, in America, we catch you with drugs and we spank you and we punish you and we put you in a cage. And that's averaging maybe $30,000, $40,000, $35,000 a year. In California, it's $50,000 a year per person. And every year, America has more people doing drugs than the year before.
Right.
So how is this working if you have this system of catch you, spank you, arrest you, put you in a cage, and you do this for a year, and at the end of the year, you have more people doing it? So Portugal looked at all the data, and they said, whatever America is doing, it's got to be exactly wrong. So let's go
opposite.
Exactly the other way. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, so they just legalized everything, but they still spent the same amount of money per person. So when they catch you doing drugs, they say, well, what's wrong with this guy? He must live in a rat cage. Does he need a job? Does he need an apartment? Does he need counseling? Let's put that money and resource, get him back on his feet. And from 2005 to 2015, they cut their drug use in half. Wow. And then what they were saying is the Americans are on this deal that, that if you, all their studies that they formally taught me when I was in college, that if you put rats and monkeys and chimps in a cage and you only offer them water or water with drugs, they drink the water with drugs till they die.
Right.
Well, the Portuguese read it all the studies because they said, well, look, the rat's in a freaking cage. So they read it all the studies, but they put a rat in a rat park where he had other rats to play with and things to play on, everything like that. And sure enough, they all chose the water.
Right.
But then they took those rats and put them in the cage and took away. So maybe the reason you're coming home from work and drinking and eating Vicodin and snorting drugs and eating Xanax and all that stuff like that is because you live in a rat cage.
Yep.
And maybe if you figured out and changed your rat cage to a rat park, you'd be happy, and then you wouldn't need to come home and get loaded and escape or whatever.
Because you're having that connection. I mean, if rats can do it, right? You have that connection, and you're now fulfilled in a different way. You're actually caring about other people. You're empathizing. All those emotions that are important for a fulfilling life, you're actually being able to deal with. I mean, I talk to doctors all the time that the number one relationship you have to focus on is you. Because you're a doctor, right? I mean, you're trained to literally give and caregive over and over and over again to heal people. I mean, I'm not going to say you all have God complexes, but some of you do. And you feel like you're just supposed to give.
By the way,
and give.
I am not God. I am Batman. But continue.
If you can't be God, be Batman. But yeah, you know, you're giving and giving and giving. And there's a famous phrase that says you cannot give from an empty cup. Because you keep pouring it out, you're so bad at receiving. Man, go and do something that is totally different than what you do every day. Make sure you have at least one thing a week that you do that's creative. You know, creativity is cash, funny is money, always. If we look at our society, we reward that. So go and be creative, and then you'll be able to overcome more challenges in life. You'll feel like you're actually receiving something. You know, that Townie talk that happened yesterday where Dr. Mike Yim, I think, Dr. Mike, we'll say Dr. Mike, he talks about being selfish, right? Being selfish, because you have to have the understanding what that future dentist is, that future doctor is. It's so important to do that. But we are in a society, and we're taught, hey, don't be selfish.
And I always tell people that, you know, lying, you know, I don't care if you lie to other people. Just don't lie to yourself. I tell my boys that all the time.
True. Don't lie to yourself.
You know, lying to someone else is usually a low technology way. Like I remember when my dad died, you know, and then you're walking down the street and people say, you know, well, how are you doing? Well, you don't want to stop and explain.
Right.
That your dad just died. You say, I'm doing great. It's a lie. Lying to other people sometimes is just a simple solution. Mm-hmm. But lying to yourself, you're going to go off a cliff.
Totally.
So we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for stopping by again for round 2, Dino.
Thanks for having me here. This is great conference.
Back to my homies again. Your focus is always exactly perfectly ass backward. You're not going to solve your problems by bone grafting, placing implants, and buying more shiny toys. Get your house in order, man. The dentists who make the most money, all they do is cleanings, fillings, and crowns. But they got a happy staff. They got happy patients. They don't have a bunch of staff turnovers. They don't have patients coming in the front door and going out the back door. They have patients for life, customers for life, spouses and children for life. Get your house in order, and everything else will take care of itself. Get an A in people, and nothing else matters. But fail the people side of the equation, and your laser ain't going to fix your problems.
Amen. Love it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Love you, Dino. Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Thank you.